So, we are now live. I don't think there's anyone watching yet. But, Season 2 has begun. As you can see from this new login screen. Gone are the Fantastic Four. In are people in Hellfire Gala outfits. On Krakoa. The Krakoa maps are really cool. I'll probably play at least one Krakoa map match, I would imagine, during this stream. So you can see them if you haven't yet. But they're pretty cool. Especially if you read X-Men at all during the Krakoan era of the books. So, I am gonna stream tonight, even though I know there may not be a lot of people. Even though this is where all the cool kids are hanging out on a Friday night. I know there may not be a lot of people tonight. But, being a priest, I am not going to be streaming over the next week and a half or so. So, yeah, starting with Lazarus Saturday tomorrow through until Pascha, I will not be streaming. I can't say I won't be playing Marvel Rivals, because I probably will, when I have downtime to relax, play a little Marvel Rivals. But I will not be streaming Marvel Rivals during Holy Week. So I'm going to stream a little bit now. Anybody who happens to be around here with the other cool kids on a Friday night wants to hear the early Season 2 stuff, all the Season 2 releases, wants to start getting the Season 2 Twitch drops are up. So there's a new spray and some Namor stuff you can get by watching streams, so tonight's stream will at least get you started on that. Then after Holy Week I will stream again in the future. And people can finish that out if they want to. But anyway, whoever's here tonight with all the cool kids on a Friday night watching this stream, feel free to ask questions and stuff in the chat. So like I said, I know this will probably not be... This is not the best and most popular time to stream, I don't think, but it's also the only time I have to stream. Until, like, the 21st. So...
The right heroes could make all the difference.
Freedom's an idea that will never die.
Well, then you have found a winner. So, there have been a bunch of character adjustments. One of them is that Captain America has been buffed in a couple of ways. One of them being just a straight across-the-board damage buff, which I've liked playing Captain America for a long time, but the problem with him was sometimes you kind of felt like, especially if you didn't have a Thor on your team with a team-up buff, it kind of felt like you were running around hitting people with pillows during a gunfight. But now with this damage buff, with this buff, it's in a sweet spot now, where, like, I'm to the point that I'm considering maybe going Captain America main this season. I say only considering because they also buffed Reed Richards. And the Reed Richards changes are also very good and very helpful to him. Also, a little nice tweak to the Human Torch that is welcome.
You think I'm too old for this?
Yeah, when I first came into the Orthodox Church, I was living in East Texas.
See them?
And the nearest Orthodox church to where I lived at that time, now this is like almost 25 years ago now, but at that time the nearest church was in Shreveport, Louisiana. So I had to drive across state lines like an hour and 15 minutes every time I went to services. I ended up just like taking the week off from my job for Holy Week because there's just no way I could try and do anything else and drive back and forth, you know. So I have been there. Now I don't think there's a mission in the town I lived in, but there's one right next to it. So, honestly, and this is what I tell people who are thinking about the priesthood, the biggest thing is having it confirmed to you by other people. The biggest thing is having other people come and tell you that you should be a priest. I had that happening to me while I was still Protestant. The first graduate school I went to was the University of Dallas in philosophy in the mid-90s, and which is a Roman Catholic school. A lot of the faculty is Cistercian monks, or at least was at that time. Now we're talking about 30 years ago. But one of the Cistercian monks who taught a class kept telling me I should be a priest, and I was like, I'm Protestant. Right. And then I went to seminary as a Protestant and stuff. Went to a Protestant seminary. Freudian slip. But then when I came into the Orthodox Church, I wasn't necessarily set on, oh, okay, because I had gone to seminary and stuff and I had been a pastor briefly, like, oh, I'm going to be a priest. In fact, I kind of was thinking I wasn't. I kind of was thinking, well, you know, I have this theological training, so maybe I'll be a deacon, you know, get some other job and be a deacon. And then Bishop Basil found me and sent me to seminary. So that was yet another thing where it was another person, right? So it's not purely a question of my judgment or my desire to be a priest. It's other people, God confirming to me through other people that that's where I need to be. So.
All right. Don't rush in.
A nice deep freeze.
Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man! Sorry, soldier. Let's dance.
Survive this. This is behind you.
This is war. Sorry, soldier.
So, and yeah, they are showing ads on my channel now. I'll give my customary announcement, which is that I'm not asking people for money, but I think if you have Amazon Prime, you get a free Amazon Prime sub every month to Twitch, and I think if you use that, you'll stop seeing the ads. Yes, that is definitely the influence of the devil.
A nice deep freeze.
Or at least capitalism. You can decide for yourself how closely related the devil and capitalism may or may not be. Yes, I have been chokeslammed repeatedly as Captain America by Emma Frost, who is an interesting tank character. But I will address the Emma Frost elephant in the room, which is they did a really good job lore-wise, right, with the character. They got a good voice actor. They got, you know, the voice lines are good. All of this checks out. Okay. But if you go and look at any of the comics, Emma Frost is skinny. And I appreciate a variety, the fact that there's a variety of different builds of women in this game. But, simply put, as spicy a take as it may be, Emma Frost should not be that thick. I'm putting it out there. Everybody can see it. Yes, a spirit is a kind of consciousness. Which, of course, a person has, right? A human person has a spirit. We have that level of consciousness. Other things that are not human persons have that level of consciousness, right? Like spirits proper, angels, demons, et al. The Holy Spirit, obviously. But, person, when we're using it for a human person, or about, right, God, or any of the other uses of person, really, includes a spirit, but those two are not identical. But yeah, Emma Frost has a low-key underutilized ability. And that's so she has this ability. You guys all get to see Krakoa. Where she separates their psyche out of their body, sort of like Doctor Strange's ultimate, except what happens is it forms this little crystal, and you can DPS the crystal. Anyone on your team can DPS the crystal, and it affects the person no matter where they run. So this is like super helpful when you're DPSing like fast characters, like Spider-Man, Black Panther, right, who are hard to target. Right, you hit them with that, and then that crystal just sits in one place, and you can blast it and take the person out. That, to me, is the best Emma Frost ability, and, like, nobody seems to be using it. So the question about the Pharisees seeking the honor of men, this is something that's not only addressed in some Second Temple literature, it's actually addressed in the Talmud.
Get ready.
So, new Bucky team up. So yeah, they've got these, in Krakoa, they've got these double starting areas that are really cool. Yeah, even the Talmud talks about it. So the Pharisees,
3, 2,
the term Pharisee comes from
Capture the missionary. Got it?
I've been saving the world since I was a teenager.
Comes from the term meaning to be set apart, right? To be different, to be sort of, and of course, by identifying as a Pharisee, you're sort of publicly setting yourself apart, sort of publicly identifying yourself as a holy person, right? And so the kind of problem with that seems obvious. Going out and doing stuff and sort of proclaiming oneself to be a holy person, right? You can see very easily how that could be problematic. And so, within that general Jewish critique, both at the time and later, of the Pharisaic movement, right, like Christ's comments about the Pharisees being hypocritical and looking for honor and praise from people totally make sense. Right? And totally fit within that critique. Right? So this is why, you know, we have very holy people, very holy monastics, for example, in the Orthodox Church. But the very holy monastics in the Orthodox Church don't go and set up like social media sites dedicated to themselves with pictures of themselves, identifying themselves as holy elders. Right? Self-proclaimed. Right? That's not a thing. Which is a very different attitude than the Pharisees. So the other question, so part of it got cut off, so I don't know what they felt, but they asked if I would add anything to my discussion with Gavin Ortlund about icons. I didn't have a discussion with Gavin Ortlund about icons. I had a discussion with Gavin Ortlund about Sola Scriptura. And when he wasn't doing as well on that topic as he thought he might, he decided he wanted to talk about the Seventh Ecumenical Council. Not even icons in general, but the Seventh Ecumenical Council. And frankly, I think I said what I have to say about that. His methodology is busted and selectively applied. He's sitting there saying, "Oh, you have to show me examples of, you know, you find someone before a certain date who explicitly talks about kissing an icon and says it's a good thing." And it's like, why? Right? Why is that the standard? And frankly, it's not his standard, right? That's not how he decides what he believes. It's that because, for example, he has admitted that the veneration of relics was going on during that time period. So, but he still rejects it. You don't see him venerating relics. He doesn't think that's a salutary practice, right? So why would I think that if I showed him what he claims he wants about icons, that he would change his mind, right? He wouldn't. Right? He still would believe in venerating icons, because that's not really his standard. So it's goalpost moving. And that's why I tried to show, like, all the things he was saying about the Seventh Ecumenical Council, you could just as easily say about the First Ecumenical Council, right? But he does not doubt the First Ecumenical Council whatsoever, right? Yeah, so part of the problem with a lot of this stuff, right, he's trying to make rhetorical points and win arguments, right, as an apologist.
Don't rush in.
Well, you kiss the icon of the... oh, where? You mean in terms of feet / hands? Hands, or just the side. It's fine.
I was always meant to.
Yeah, I mean, St. Constantine called the first one. So, yeah. Like...
before you attack. Get ready.
Buddy, we have to save the world. Not the first time. Won't be the
But yeah,
last.
I think we really need to...
We are warriors, no matter what worlds we come from.
How to put this?
Do not lose sight.
I think when we're dealing with apologists,
The battle starts
right,
in 5,
from other traditions,
4, 3,
we need to spend less time just recycling the old arguments and counter arguments,
permission area. Got it?
and start just
I left the beaches
critiquing
of
the
hell
logic,
for this.
right? Like, the actual logic behind what they're arguing, it doesn't even make sense. Like, I think a good example of that I finally come to, because I've been going on channels and talking to people about St. Paul. That's why I say I've come to this, because of my book on St. Paul. So, you get these folks of sort of a more Protestant bent who argue, you know,
Action now.
that somehow, you know, St. Paul is doing the whole the law is bad and we're set free from it thing. Some version of it. Right? And like I said on Lord of Spirits last night,
Capture the mission area.
I'll be shipshape in no time.
when you look at what parts of the law, the Torah, what commandments they think we're free of, their whole argument falls apart. Right? Because they don't think we're, you know, free from the law against committing murder. They don't think we're free to, like, hate people. They don't think we're free to, like, worship other gods and commit idolatry. They don't think we're free to do any of that stuff, right? The laws they think we're free from, the commandments we're free from, according to them, are like wearing mixed fabrics and planting 2 kinds of seed in your field, right? So, am I really supposed to look at my life and be like, well, you know, loving everyone as I love myself, that's easy now that I can wear this cotton polyester t-shirt. Right? Like, what? You know, like, the parts that are onerous, the parts of the Torah that are difficult to keep, the parts that are all the ones that still apply according to them. So how am I, you know,
Half of the mission area. Keep going.
quote the old Lutheran hymn, free from the law, oh happy condition, right? Like, when I still have to follow all the parts that are difficult for me to follow. And when I've brought that up to Protestants, they frankly don't have much of a counter argument. Because it's not a critique, it's a critique of their logic, right? I've never found an Orthodox rabbi willing to talk to me about religion. When I was in West Virginia, even though he had thrown me out of his Talmud class, the local Orthodox rabbi did sort of become my friend, but that's because he grew up in Brooklyn, and he loved old Marvel comics. So all he would talk to me about were comics. We tended to go on the same day to the comic store to pick up our new comics. And so he and I would talk about comics there, but he wouldn't talk about religion. The Reform rabbi, when I was in West Virginia, would talk to me about religion, but he was Reformed. He was kind of crazy. And one time I gave a presentation on the doctrine of the Trinity, the Reformed rabbi in town told me, wow, that's the only presentation of the Doctrine of the Trinity I've ever heard that made any sense to me. And I was like, okay, so did I do a good job or am I a heretic? Which one? Okay, I missed everything after the period after pregnant. Judah condemns Tamar to be burned after finding out she's pregnant, and then I missed the rest. What would happen to the other 926 Iskanders? I will have to look that up in Leviticus to see what is there in the original language. Because Deuteronomy 21 talks about capital punishment. Yeah, that Psylocke skin is the skin I'm going to use on Psylocke now. That's from a great storyline that came out when I was in high school many moons ago, drawn by Jim Lee. Yeah, but I will look that up in Leviticus and see what's going on the original,
hero,
because
or villain, I'm not judging.
Freedom's an idea that will never die.
in the original, or in Deuteronomy when it talks about capital punishment, there's no mention of burning. So I'll have to see if that's talking about burning the person, burning their belongings. There are different elements of that. But the typical commandment for adultery, the typical method of execution for adultery is stoning.
Your helmet guards you from psionic abilities. Clever.
I have known many over the years who would wish to control me.
Per Deuteronomy.
You do not wish your gifts to be used as a weapon.
Quite the contrary. I simply want to be the one who is wielding the sword.
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
We are warriors, no matter what worlds we come from. Do not lose sight of that. Some uninvited guests.
That's the most I needed.
A little help, please.
Catch!
Looks like the mission area is yours to capture now.
As I expected.
Sorry, soldier. Take this!
Thank you, sir. And yeah, like I said, I'll look that up in the Hebrew and the Greek and see
You're on the wrong.
what the Hebrew says and what the Greek does with it.
Mission area is yours.
But yeah, so that Psylocke skin, and there's a matching Ileana skin. Even though Ileana wasn't in that storyline, but when she was in the New Mutants, she had a similar uniform to that, X-Men uniform to that. So there was an era of X-Men in the mid-'80s where the X-Men were presumed dead, but they had found this artifact, the Siege Perilous, that they had gone through. So everyone thought they were dead. They were actually at a secret base in the outback in Australia. That's their new headquarters. And they operated out of there.
Control lost.
Never stay down.
Yes, Jean is coming. And so they're out there in Australia, and that sort of Australia era ended. And when the Australia era ended, the Reavers laid siege to their base in Australia. And so they fled through the Siege Perilous again, and it sort of scattered the X-Men all over the place. And so they had to kind of be regathered. And when they were first regathered, they regathered to defend Muir Island. And when they regathered to defend Muir Island, they didn't have their customary uniforms available. So they all just grabbed, for a couple of issues, they all wore sort of those blue and gold X-Men uniforms. And so that's what Psylocke looked like in that uniform. That's where that skin comes from. But there, even like for those couple of issues. There's some really good skins coming up this season and in the season pass. The Joe Fixit skin for the Hulk is pretty amazing.
Keep it up, kids.
You've captured more than half of the mission area. Keep going.
So I loved FX's Legion. I am so mad that after they put out the first season on Blu-ray, they only released seasons 2 and 3 on DVD. Because if there was ever a show that's all about, like, the visuals, it's that show. Like, I want that in 4K, not, like, you know, DVD, standard def. Like, it's insane. So I'm hoping maybe, now that Disney has the rights to it, it's technically an X-Men show. They're bringing the X-Men into the MCU. Maybe it'll get re-released, but that is a great show. So, Psylocke and the English Woman, no. Quanon and Betsy Braddock have been separated in the comics for a while now. So Betsy Braddock went and became the new Captain Britain, taking that over from her brother Brian.
Get ready.
Now Quanon is Psylocke in the comics. The Psylocke in this game is actually neither of them. The Psylocke in this game is Psylocke from an X-Men manga thing that was produced. If you read the lore sheet in Marvel Rivals. The guy getting stoned to death for picking up sticks on the Sabbath. What's going on there is that this is right when that commandment was given. And that was one of the first commandments given by God. So God gives one of his first commandments to the Israelites after bringing them out of Egypt, and immediately a guy violates it. So he kind of gets made an example of. Right? And so yeah, that is harsh, but it's kind of, you know, demonstrating the seriousness, God's seriousness about his commandments. Right? When you have one that's sort of broken immediately after it's given, and it's the first one, with many more to come. And a relatively simple one, right? Like, again, this is, you know, like I was saying earlier, this isn't one of the ones, like, taking a day off is not one of the really onerous, difficult ones for most people, right? Like, it's kind of obviously a gift, taking a day off, right? And so if you can't even follow that one, are you going to follow the ones about sexual immorality, right? Are you going to follow the ones about how to conduct yourself in your family? Are you going to follow the ones, you know, on and on and on? So that's why that guy kind of got an example made of him. By the way, Psylocke, the idea that Quanon's body was possessed by Betsy Braddock was actually a retcon. And it was a retcon because the story Chris Claremont originally wrote was even more problematic than that. He just...
Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
The original story, Chris Claremont just implied that Betsy Braddock, a British woman, had been transformed into an Asian woman.
Here.
Glory's almost yours.
Yeah. So, that was weird. So they retconned that into, oh no, her mind, because she's a telepath, her mind was in this other person's body. She basically switched minds with this person. And then they have since fixed that.
Just the way I like it.
Us against the world!
Yeah, so basically, I haven't felt that. I basically stopped. I bought all the 5e material, and I stopped buying D&D when they put out the new rule books. I have heard good things about the new Dungeon Master's Guide, actually. It's a legit improvement. This is another one of those double starting areas. So there's like technological room. You take the Krakoa portal, and you're in here.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
So I've heard good things about the DMG, like I said, but I'm just not interested in buying new things. Most of it didn't seem improvements. It seemed like they were just iterating because Hasbro needed them to try and generate sales, and it hasn't generated the sales. I don't know if you've been following. Chris Perkins just quit D&D. Like, Mike Merles is out. Like, all the old school people, everyone who worked on 5e is all gone. Hasbro's downsizing it. It's kind of sad, but the nice thing about D&D is once you buy an edition, right, you get those 3 books from any edition, you can play Dungeons & Dragons for the rest of your life. You don't have to buy anything else. You know, so if you have an edition you like, just stick with it, you know. Somebody asked me something about something else, and I tried to memory hole it, and it got memory holed too far down the hole. So you might need to re-ask me while I was answering the D&D question. Oh, yeah. So, really what needs to happen is, the different churches that make up what we call the Oriental Orthodox Communion, or non-Chalcedonian, or pre-Chalcedonian, or whatever they prefer to be called now. The bishops involved needed to come back into communion with our bishops, with the Orthodox bishops. And that has to happen sort of it's our communities are really set up differently. So yes, the Orthodox Church is a communion of separate churches, right? Where nobody sort of has authority. Like the Patriarch of Constantinople can't just say like, "Oh, okay, I've decided to, you know, go into communion with the Copts, so now they're in communion with everybody." Doesn't work that way, right? But the Oriental Orthodox Communion is even looser than that. They're in communion with each other, but what the Armenians are doing and what the Indian Orthodox are doing is very different. Even the Egyptians and the Ethiopians is very different. And so the reality is each individual group would have to sort of come back in. And so whatever concerns there were, not just in terms of accepting counsels, but across the board, right, would have to be addressed at that point as bishops are coming back into communion. So I think most of the things like the Ethiopian customs related to keeping parts of the Torah that they inherited from Ethiopian Judaism that they were already doing before the break, before Chalcedon, I don't see why any of those would be a problem. I'm not a bishop, so this isn't, it's above my pay grade, but I don't see why those would be a big issue, right? Per se. I'm just popping out to see if there are any invitations or anything. But I suppose they could be. No, I don't think anyone has ever asked me to do that.
It's now or never! Stop them!
What do we got? We got a couple of tanks. Got a healer. I'll come out of left field here.
Disappear!
I'll come back to House of David in a second. And you'll see why I'm chuckling. No, I lost my train of thought. Darn it.
I feel better already. Never miss.
So I need, I'll do the House of David thing, and then whatever question I was about to answer before that, someone will need to remind me. You can tell my brain is all over the place going and thinking about Holy Week stuff. Oh, justification by faith. Sure. St. Paul is contrasting justification by really faithfulness with being justified by the works of the Torah. Right? And so the works of the Torah, and really, if you read Matthew Thomas's published dissertation on this, like, it's utterly clear that the way every Christian writer, including heretical ones, that we still have in the first few centuries of the church, understood the phrase works of Torah was as the commandments that were given specifically to the Jewish people.
The right heroes could make all the difference.
Are you ready?
And not to Gentiles. Oh.
Freedom's an idea that will never die.
And so, i.e. circumcision. Right, with St. Paul being the big one. But circumcision there, like St. Paul says in Galatians, if you're circumcised, you have to keep the whole Torah. Right, so that sort of becomes a synecdoche for all of those commandments that are just for Jewish people, just for Israelites. Not eating pork, with all the food laws. All of those things. And so, St. Paul...
Never forget who you're fighting for.
They'll be coming in
Well, the argument is, what makes you righteous? What makes you righteous in the sight of God? Right? And St. Paul is saying, essentially, you being Jewish does not make you righteous before God. And he's expecting Jewish people, faithful Jewish people who know the scriptures, to agree with him. to agree with him and say, no, that's right. There are righteous people who are not Jewish, and there are Jewish people who are not righteous. So just keeping those boundary markers of Judaism in and of itself does not make you righteous, right? The person who is righteous is the one who is faithful to God, whether they're Jewish or not, right? And the reason faithfulness is such an important word is that faithfulness applies regardless of what your particular calling is, right? So if you're Jewish, right, and you've been given these commandments by God to live in a particular way, then being faithful means keeping them. But if you're not Jewish, right, you're still called to be faithful to God, but that means keeping the commandments that were given to you, like not committing murder, not partaking of idolatry or sexual immorality, right? And so St. Paul is ultimately arguing that the Gentile who does that and the Pharisee who, you know, has the long tassels and does all the things are on the same plane before God in terms of how they're judged as to whether they're righteous or not.
Too old for this?
So, House of David, the reason I chuckled is that I was a consultant on the first season of House of David. That said, I was a consultant, right? And what that concretely means is you get asked questions. So the head writer sent me a lot of questions. I wrote kind of a story Bible for the writers beforehand. I got calls all the way up to and including while they were filming from the set, from one of the actors at one point. But they would just ask me questions and I would give them answers. And they would either, you know, once I gave them the answer, they would do what they wanted with that, right? So they didn't always, you know, go with what I told them. Sometimes for dramatic reasons or other reasons, they went in other directions. So I have not watched it partially because of that, because I know, like, there are going to be places where they kind of ignored me that I'm going to find frustrating, you know, and stuff. But from what people have said, what I've read and stuff, people talking about it and stuff, I know there are a few scenes that came from me that did make it through to the final product. So, and no, I am not involved in season 2. The person who brought me in, at least I think, last I heard, is not involved in season 2. And that means neither am I. But we will see. So I saw a question there that started with, sir, in terms of the Jews that and I didn't see the rest of it. So if there was a question at the end of that, so the Jews who were sentenced, I will need you to repost it.
No, my baby.
Well, no, it's not.
Don't rush in.
So it's not the same end. Okay? This is one of the problems. Is that there's this view that underlies a lot of Protestant theology that, oh, if you keep the whole Torah, you get eternal life. And the Torah never says that. Torah never says that. The rest of the scriptures never say that. God never says that. If you keep the whole Torah, you earn eternal life. Right? The commandments of the Torah are what God commands you to do.
The fat lady isn't singing yet.
If you look at read the blessings in Leviticus 26 and Deuteronomy 28, the blessings say nothing about eternal life. They talk about having a long life in the land, crops in their seasons and rains, gentle rains, and all that kind of stuff, right? So that is the end to which the Israelites were given the commandments they were given. Right? It was about how they should live in the land before God. The Gentiles, by and large, did not live in the land before Israel's God, and so those commandments didn't apply to them.
It's now or never. Stop.
Now, the place where you see the overlap, when you read like Leviticus carefully, is that there are commandments in Leviticus, a subset of them, where it says to Israelites and to foreigners who live in the land.
That feels better.
And right, so that's different. That's a foreigner who's living in Israel. He's now has to follow a different set. Oh, so you're talking about, okay, Jewish and Gentile Christians. Well, again, what is the end that we're talking about? I think ultimately, what we're dealing with in the first century, where you have Jewish Christians and Greek Christians and Scythian Christians and Roman Christians and whatever else, right? Antiochian Christians. Is not all that different than the situation we have today in the Orthodox Church, where we have Greek Orthodox Christians and Russian Orthodox Christians and et cetera, we all have different sort of sub-traditions and ways of doing things and viewing things and customs. For example, the fasting rules are somewhat different between different churches and different countries, partially based on what food is available in those countries, right? There's some food that's not available, so there's no reason to forbid it, right? In certain countries, right? Right? It's a way of life, right, for a people. So what I've hypothesized is that if, and it would be beautiful if this happened, in the future there's a mass conversion of Jewish people to Christianity, so that there's a Jewish Christianity again, there's a Jewish Orthodox Church, right, that they would follow Jewish customs and a Jewish way of life, right, the same way Greek Orthodox Christians follow Greek customs and a Greek way of life, and are Orthodox Christians, right? So the main difference is that, so there's this long historical process that starts in the first century and that St. Paul is having to wrestle through of, okay, what does a Christian Greek culture look like? Because part of being Greek in the first century was worshiping certain gods, right? Celebrating certain festivals, doing a lot of pagan stuff as part of what it meant to be Greek. And so there had to be a redefinition of what it means to be Greek.
Maximum pulse!
And that took a long time. But it's happened, right? Now, part of what it means to be Greek, part of Greek identity is being an Orthodox Christian, right?
Well, you can't expect it.
With Judaism, at first, right, we were talking about Judaism in the first century, we know what parts of the Jewish way of life come from God, because it's the Torah and it comes from God, right? Christians have never disagreed about that the Torah comes from God, right? But if that mass conversion of Jewish people to Christianity were to ever happen, and we were to get a Jewish Orthodox Church, right, per se, there would have to be a little bit of that, because we still agree that the Torah and those things come from God, but there are Jewish traditions that have arisen since the time of Christ, and some of them are deliberately antithetical to Christianity. And so obviously those wouldn't be endorsed or carried over into a kind of Jewish Orthodox
Pick
Christian
your hero
situation.
or villain. I'm not judging.
Well, I mean, I'm going to say yes, it's intentional.
I'm the brightest in the sky. Is it hot in here or is it just me? Oh, right. It's totally me.
But, right. How do you participate in
Get ready.
the Passover? Right? I mean, from the very beginning of its institution in the Torah, you participate in the Passover by eating the Passover. Right? You eat the lamb. That's how you participate. So, yeah, Christ talking about eating his flesh and drinking his blood at the Passover is very much deliberate. And ties into what St. John is going to do in terms of how he sets up the timing of Christ's death vis-a-vis Passover.
Fear Vesta. A nice deep freeze.
That felt nice.
Hideous and the one from
Dodge this!
Looks like the mission area is yours to capture now.
I think Ramadan lost one of his toys.
I like the cold. Look out behind you.
Should be a change.
Mission area is yours.
We have done well. You cannot hurt me.
Absolutely. Yes, yeah. No, the weird evangelical arguments that John 6 is not about the Eucharist are some of the worst cases of special pleading I've ever read in my life. Like,
Don't mind me. I'm just dying. I'll punch you. I'm sorry I trashed your stuff. This is a nice spot.
I like the cold. You've captured more than half of the mission area. Keep going.
Dodge this! I rock.
We should destroy these oaks.
well, like all metaphors for eternal condemnation, having a resurrected body and a dead soul is one of those things that we aren't meant to be able to really understand what that means, and we don't want to.
Double KO.
My hair's all
Control lost.
It's a little tweak they made to the Human Torch here in Season 2 is that now when you do the dive attack, the sort of ground slam attack, the meteor attack, you get bonus health for a few seconds, which is really nice because that both makes it more useful, that you don't necessarily get killed the second you use it by everybody, But also makes it useful just if you need a little health boost. Right? You can pop it for that reason.
The moon haunts you!
Us against the world! We are undefeatable!
Dodge this!
I'm hurt.
I think we're on my tongue lost.
It's clobbering time!
Supernova!
Yeah, it's me.
Double KO!
Some uninvited guests.
They've almost got it! I like the code. Control
Chance.
Time to celebrate.
Flame on!
Seconds before you attack.
Well,
Get ready.
parting the waters shows power over primordial chaos.
Hold on. Are you
Whereas
actually gonna
walking on the water, particularly in a storm,
That'd be a bad thing?
ask me again after we
is showing the ability to defeat and destroy chaos, right? So you got the sea like glass in Revelation,
1.
right?
All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
If we save all timelines, perhaps I can find return.
So the parting of the waters is primarily about God protecting Israel from the destruction of the waters and the destruction of the Egyptians,
A nice deep freeze.
right? Who are consumed by the power of chaos. Whereas walking on water is showing that sort of God is undisturbed by primordial chaos.
Mission area is yours to capture now.
And again, see the sea like glass in Revelation, right? Where if you have a sea that's like glass, so-called it's like glass, that water is no longer representing chaos, right? It's water that's now purely about refreshment and life.
Assemble!
Oop.
Keep your curses to yourself, Moonlight.
I am rekindled.
Capture the mission area.
It's clamoring time! For mutant kind!
Time to do my map trick.
Watch me so. We are undefeatable.
Fancy Egyptian.
Us against the world. Control C.
Day at the spa.
Control lost.
Okay, how about we try this again?
So I currently do not have a question on board. If anybody has one, go ahead. If I missed one, go ahead and reapply.
Your team's capture progress
Man.
is past the halfway point.
They are mad at me.
I suck.
this candle.
Which guy? Do we have a guy AFK? Running into a wall or something?
The moon haunts you!
I like the cold.
Always feeling better already.
They've almost got it!
Right, baby.
So the Vespers and Matins, the worship is the offering of incense, which the service is built around. So yeah, the 3 quests for the historical Jesus. The second one was especially lame. The first one was just the kind of tired, lame European liberal thing you'd expect. The third one was the Jesus seminar they were trying. But there were people who were trying to... They wanted to still hold to the figure of Jesus. There were things they liked about Christianity. There were things they saw and realized came from Christianity that they valued. But based on the kind of modernist liberalism they were indoctrinated in otherwise, they couldn't bring themselves to actually believe Christianity.
You are one of the greatest warriors the nation has ever known.
Part of that is because they were no longer living in a world or even attending churches where actual Christianity was believable.
Take you to them, my dear. Krakoa.
Right? They had been sort of conformed and shaped by a very modernist world and by liberal modernist churches where
Capture the mission area. Got it?
the things that are the core doctrines of Christianity seem silly to them.
Against all mutants.
But there was still this appeal at multiple levels to Christ, especially. And they were trying to find a way to intellectually preserve that. And so they thought, well, if we can come up with some kind of, well, this is who Jesus is historically. You don't have to believe anything. This is just, this historical figure, right? These are just historical facts. These are the things that he historically taught and that we think are good. Then that gives you a way to try to hold on to the elements you like of Christianity and jettison the ones you don't like. And, yeah. So, that kind of had its day. The third quest in particular, you look at people like Robert Funk, you look at people like John Dominic Crossan, a lot of them were former clergy. Like Crossan was a Catholic priest when he was very young, probably too young, was ordained as a Catholic priest. Robert Funk was a Methodist boy preacher in the South. They had all had these kind of negative experiences as more traditional Christian clergymen. And that was affecting what they were doing too. Right? And so that was motivating it. But what ended up happening to all of them, and even a lot of them admitted it, the Jesus they ended up creating when they gave you their picture of who the historical Jesus was looked a lot like them. And the things they valued and the things they cared about, right? And that's suspicious, right? Like, you want to create your own personal Jesus who doesn't, challenge you in any way. Who kind of loves what you love and hates what you hate, and, tells you that you're all right. But it ultimately fell apart because, bluntly, those guys were boomers. Depeche Mode. Ultimately, they were boomers, and that kind of thing worked for them, and it hasn't worked for succeeding generations. Succeeding generations just don't buy. Hey, there we go. Just don't buy this whole sort of I'm okay, you're okay, everything's all right, we're all good kind of religion. So it kind of fell apart. I will answer that question about the Rage Being of Salvation, but this is going to be the last game. So as is now our tradition on this stream, the first character name I see in the chat will be the character I play in this last game. Why you want to do that to people? Okay. I'll play Spider-Man. This will not be pretty. I warned you in advance. But I have to be true to my word.
Only my neighborhood is now like multiple realities. Cool, right?
So the question was about the range of meaning of salvation, especially in Protestant groups. I mean, yeah, the chasm suit is awesome. I do like that. I wish I was better at playing him. No, the chasm suit is... Chasm is the latest iteration of Ben Reilly, the infamous clone of Spider-Man made by the Jackal.
Where's the timeline where we all just go down to the bodega for a sandwich?
But I am a big fan of Ben Reilly, so...
Stay strong.
They did him dirty a little bit with the whole chasm thing.
Do you see a unicorn in an afro wig next to me?
No.
And you're missing out. Yeah.
Battle starts in 5, 4,
So,
2, 1.
Some uninvited guests.
You need to stop that vehicle in its tracks.
Spider Slate.
yeah. So, when they talk about salvation... Honestly, most evangelical Protestants in the U.S. and stuff, when they talk about salvation, really do just mean going to heaven instead of hell. I mean, just gotta be honest. When you read actual Protestant theology, there's a lot more to it than that, right? When you read actual Protestant theology, you know, in the Reformed tradition, they'll talk about mystical union with Christ, which is almost like theosis. I mean, there's differences, but...
There's still a chance to stop them.
But they'll talk about it in ways that, you know, are commensurate.
Without Spider-Man,
I'm good with Spider-Man. I hope people are finding this entertaining, because I would normally not do this to you, but I have to be true to my word and play the person who gets picked.
They get a checkpoint. Now might be a good time to stop them.
So there are a lot of nuances to salvation. In Lutheranism, I know there's been a sort of a rediscovery of theosis. So there's a lot more to it than that, but...
Better stop that vehicle.
Spider Fist is ready to punch.
Yeah.
I'm not a vengeful person, but today I'll make an exception.
Somehow I managed to get both of Spider-Man's in-game achievements, though. Even though this is how well I play him.
Leave them to Khonshu!
Maximum pulse!
Spider Sling!
That was almost good there for a second. Admit it. Then it all fell apart on me, but it's kind of cool there for a second. Looked like I might have figured something out.
Now I've got something to prove.
There's still a chance to stop them. Better stop that vehicle.
Pretty sure those are bad guys.
They hit a checkpoint. Now might be a good time to stop them.
I'm not a vengeful person, but today I'll make an exception.
Yeah, actually, the He Who Causes to Be reading of the meaning of Yahweh is pretty common among Old Testament scholars. I think even Heiser took that interpretation.
I'm not a vengeful person,
Hey, it's me.
but today I'll
Scroll
make an
girl, in case you couldn't
exception.
tell by the giant
I wonder if my team's yelling and screaming at me right now.
It's now or never. Stop them.
I have in-game voice chat disabled, so... Yeah, I swung into a tree. I'm George of the Jungle now.
Don't mess with the amazing
Yeah! Yeah, that's right. I got a kill. Check that out.
Don't
One
mess
kill.
with the amazing spider.
Don't give
I'm not
them
a
another
vengeful
inch.
person,
Or
but
else.
today I'll make an exception.
Ah!
Maximum!
Well, you can't expect to win them all.
Why did someone give me a thumbs up? That's charity. Charity. Charity, that thumbs up. You're devaluing thumbs up for everyone by giving me one after that. Okay, I know I said that was going to be the last game, but that was a debacle. I need a palate cleanser. So, actual last game, someone other than Spider-Man. Oh, great. Okay. I'll try. I'm going to do better with Emma Frost than Spider-Man. I can guarantee you that much. Maybe not much better.
You'll need a top-notch team to win this one.
Oh, somebody beat me to her. So I will go with the next person that isn't Spider-Man, and that is Venom. Yeah, her ultimate is pretty wild. So, like all people who try to play Spider-Man and fail miserably, I will now just play Venom.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
Come on, seriously? Who invited Spidey's evil twin?
I don't know if this is appropriate on a priest stream, but there it is.
Say that again, you'll get a face full of flames, ugly.
We do not need to say it. We will prove it.
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
Something tells me this is a good day to have a healing factor.
Behind you!
Wow, that Emma on the other team is actually really good. That's kind of scary this early out. This may also be inappropriate for a priest stream, but I feel like I have to address the other Emma Frost element in the room. Clearly this character was created for the gays. Like, it is painfully obvious. Like her character intro and stuff. Like...
Strong together. I like the cold.
Found a hot spot!
Help get that vehicle to its destination.
Come on, Loki, I'm not falling.
I actually like the Venom movies, but I like the Venom movies the way I like, you know, Adam West Batman and the Nick Cage Ghost Rider movies, right? Like, you gotta take them for the campy goofiness they are. Really, in a way, the Venom movies are romantic comedies of a very distorted kind. I actually really, unironically, like, I like Ghost Rider 2 in the same way that I like the Venom movies. In fact, I would go so far as to say that Ghost Rider 2, on the scale of, on the Mandy scale of rating Nick Cage movies, which is of course the correct scale by which to do it, is a quarter of a Mandy. Mandy, of course, is the sine qua non of Nicolas Cage movies, greater than which none can be conceived. And so you rate all other Nick Cage movies by the Mandy scale. Yeah, Color Out of Space is like half a Mandy.
I like the cold.
They're ahead of us.
Tackling a Loki is a unique approach when playing Wolverine.
Storming.
I'm clocking some bad guys.
Manos Hands of Fate is one of the great all-time Mystery Science Theater 3000 episodes.
Logan, you belong to me!
Your powers are mine! You're welcome. On your tail. Look out.
I have to say the fact that Emma screams "Kneel peasants" when she does her ultimate is pretty on point lore-wise.
Almost there. Don't turn back now.
Feel the wrath of the goddess!
Behind you! We will get you to Budokan before you know it. I'm cursed? Or hard, I suppose.
I'm I'll admit, you made that look good, Emma.
Trying to remember the greatest episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000 of all time. It's a Joe Don Baker movie. I'm trying to remember the title. It's a one-word title. It's the guy's name. The character Joe Don Baker plays. What's it called? Mitchell. Yes. The episode where they watch Miss Mitchell. Favorite episode of Unsolved Mysteries is the D.B. Cooper episode.
I am vulnerable.
Wow, girl power.
That's it. Don't let anything stand in your way.
Or a dagger.
Almost there. The portal in the Budokan will get us to
I'm Become our next victim.
That was interesting clipping.
You thought we were done? Not so fast. Leave it or march, we are roots.
Only 60 seconds left.
So the key thing is you may have just seen there with Emma's ultimate is that it's directional. She has to aim it. So if you can get around behind her, you won't be affected by it. Then you can take her out. Okay. I feel better about going out on that game than the Spider-Man game. So, thank you everybody. As I said, not going to be streaming during Holy Week. Some point in Bright Week will be the next time I'm streaming. and you will see the thing pop up again. So, thank you, everybody.